Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the first recap of the Tour de France 2024 Stage 1, brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling, the best adaptive training platform on the market for a brutal start. Starting in Florence, the Italian Grand Depart. I'll get Benji's vibe check on the Tour de France team's presentation in a second. Finishing in Rimini, 206 Ks, sweltering heat, I would say, for the first 100 Ks. Then some cloud cover came in mercifully. 4,000 meters climbing with pretty long climbs too. Got the sun, two like Cat 3, Cat 2 climbs, 12 Ks, 5.4%. They're about 20 to 30 minutes. Then Barabotto, 6 Ks, 7.6% with some steep sections. Descent, San Leo, and the Monte Maggio, both 4.3 Ks or so at about 7.5%. Before the final climb, not as hard as the Haisgebel last year. And further from the finish, 7.1 Ks at 4.7% before about 16 Ks of falls flat downhill to the finish in Rimini. Did you watch the Tour de France team's presentation, Benji?
No.
Oh, you didn't watch it?
The thing is, the only thing that's interesting to me about a team presentation is figuring out which jerseys every team is going to wear in the race. And then I look at Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe, and I look at Visma Lease Bike, and I already thought, okay, these look relatively similar on the team presentation, but in the race today, they look the same.
That's what I thought. I was like, when I first saw the Visma jersey and the Bora, I was like, oh, it's different shades, but man, like, especially with Van Aert's Red Bull helmet, I know it's a different Red Bull helmet, but really difficult to tell them apart.
I do have to say, the Red Bull one, I would wear it. It looks good, but it's not ideal when it comes to the recognition between the two teams. The Visma Lab one, initially I was like, oh, I'd love to wear this, but I feel like I'm slowly dimming down on it because I feel like I can't read anything on it anyway.
Yeah, and then the Alpecin one is kind of different. I thought it would be a lighter grey, but in the lighter day, it was darker than I expected. Cofidis I liked. I could clearly see it's Cofidis with the white and red. It's like their normal color palette. Jayco, it is different, but also I don't think of, it's just different. The orange with the bottoms. But yeah, team's presentation, not really much more to say. It happened. There's there's loads of awkward interviews and that just keep happening, and that's how they do it. The stage. I was pleasantly surprised, Benji, because last year, I feel like in the Tour de France, multiple stages where we thought, why not have a crack today? Why not have a go? You're not going to win the sprint, or you're not going to win an uphill punch against Poggy. Have a go, get in the breakaway, and we'd end up with two Arkea riders and we'd all go have a 3-hour siesta. The break formation today, everyone thought we can go for the yellow jersey. It was loads of teams jumping and with good riders.
And that's intriguing because when you look at the profile, it kind of looks like a transition stage. The oddity is that it's on stage 1. So we don't have many of those in the past in the Tour de France where we're like, ooh, that's going to happen today. There's like a bit of a mystery of can the break make it or not. And a break with stronger riders is more likely to make it. A break with more teams involved is also more likely to make it. So when I saw that Groupama was very, very vibrant in the breakaway formation phase, Madouas, Kung, plenty of other riders from the team trying to bridge towards the breakaway. I love that. Great on them for doing that. Next to that, we saw DSM being very active, Bardego in the breakaway. Then later, we had Frank van den Broek jumping as well. Frank van den Broek, very talented, won a stage at Tour of Turkey.
Turkey and the GC, yeah.
Exactly. So, and next to that, he's also a very versatile rider. He's like, he can climb, but before that race, I didn't know he was a climber.
Yeah, and he wasn't the best climber there. He was kind of good on the punchy stages, and he's just a good all-round rider.
A good engine. Jaschke is a Gire, so just all-round attackers. Mohoric was attacking. Johnny Vermeers was very active for Alpecin as well. And that also shouts to me that they don't have necessarily the confidence that Mathieu van der Poel gets over this profile today. So that's why they try to go in the break with someone like Johnny Vermeers. Then French champion Paul Appert looks so beautiful in that kit. I have to tell you. Kind of looked like a Groupama kid attacking from the front because you only see the blue shoulders, but I love that. The only thing I did see in the peloton was an attack from a UAE rider, obviously, and Little Trek, because Little Trek initially seemed to be helping UAE, who was trying to control with Polish. UAE wanted a relatively controllable, small breakaway to form because that gives them the biggest chance to win the stage, but I also feel like they weren't super controlling. And at first, they were responding to too much, as in if two riders were up the road, they would respond to two riders reacting. That's overkill. You're fine with a 4-man break going up the road. But then eventually, UAE just went to the back a little bit, and they were like, okay, we can't control this. Let it happen.
I think and that's the thing, like why other teams should always give it a go first and then react on what other teams are doing. I think UAE, they did have that plan, but then they were like, are we really going to kill Pollitt and Soler for half an hour or 45 minutes when there's 10 teams, 12 teams jumping and jumping with like Matej Moric, Tour de France stage winner last year. So they were like, no way, we'll kill ourselves and we still won't catch the break.
Yeah.
So they kind of went back, as you said, Benji. I was surprised to see Trek controlling so much initially, but then eventually the break did go and then they stopped chasing, which was kind of curious. X were jumping loads, but then they missed it in the end. And what was also curious was EF's plan today was clearly not to go on the break.
Yeah.
But then when you see Jonas Vingegaard, Valentin Madouas, Mohoric, Frank van den Broek,
Bardet trying.
Yeah, you see those caliber of guys jumping, and I would say the much higher percentage chance for them to win the stage is Ben Healy, Rui Costa, maybe even Moran van den Berg, or Bettiol himself in the breakaway. And they did it. They didn't try. They didn't really block it up too much, but they didn't try. And I think Bettiol would have been allowed in. If Mohoric is allowed in, why wouldn't Bettiol be allowed in? I don't see them. I see them on the same tier.
And it's not just Bettiol alone, it's the whole squad. Healy, Costa, there's multiple riders in that team that could be in this breakaway and could be competitive in that breakaway. It's basically a breakaway squad in the first place.
Yeah,
so
true.
It's there, and then you have the option of Marijn van den Berg on a versatile sprint, but before the stage started, I thought it might be a bit too hard for him. But they didn't necessarily go for that, and that leads us to the following phase of the race. We get that breakaway that kind of forms. You've got Mohoric, Madouas, Izagirre, Champoussin, Frank van den Broek, Dujardin, and Verchet. So 2 riders from Total Energy. Vermeers, Soul Chaser, Chas Patat. Doesn't actually reach the breakaway, but there's other riders that aren't happy with that breakaway because X missed it. They've been very attacking with Abrahamsen so far, but he didn't make it. I don't know what they were trying next, but Abrahamsen attacks from the group. Then they start chasing behind him. Then they catch Abrahamsen. Then eventually Abrahamsen goes again. A little Trek mingles with it. Then they start pacing. Then they realize, well, we are little Trek. We've got Pedersen. Our Pedersen has the biggest chance if this race is passive. So if we start pacing, then UAE has more riders on the climbs to explode. And Gibbons jumps with Abrahamsen.
I thought he was just blocking.
At first, it looked like that. And they were pacing behind him at first.
Yeah.
And then they stopped. And then Gibbons and Abrahamsen bridged to the front very gradually. I must say, not both of them did the same amount of work, huh?
Gibbons refused to pull. Abrahamsen had to close a 2-minute gap himself, which he did. So eventually we do have our breakaway, and we're thinking who's gonna chase. But before we get to that next phase of the race, a word in our show partner, Join Cycling. Many cyclists struggle to improve their fitness. I know this myself due to a lack of guidance, consistency, and motivation, and feeling like I'm on a plan, even if it's a plan that I think is very achievable. And that's the most important for me during the Tour de France. Okay, I did 30 minutes, easy roll today before the Tour de France kicked off. That's as good as I'm going to get. And Jim Vandenberg, the CEO of Join Cycling, Benji, he gave us that challenge just to be consistent during the tour. And that's what Join Cycling, their plans and their adaptive training plans are all about. Is, am I going to stick 100% to doing 10, 11 hours a week during the tour? Probably not. If I do 6, 7 hours a week, it's not the end of the world. The plan will adapt and I can adjust my availability. And that's what I love about the platform. I just say, okay, today I got only an hour and a half, and then the plan adjusts and gives me a workout to do.
And I think if you look at the last couple of months, I feel like you also look fitter over the months, personally.
I'd hope so.
I'm not saying you looked very unfit, but you look a lot fitter now.
I'd hope so, yeah. I mean, just being consistent. I haven't been doing anything crazy. I've literally just been doing the Join plan and doing them, finish the Fabio Jakobsen, start the FTP builder. I'm doing it on like intermediate. It's nothing crazy, not pro hours, and I'm just doing the plan, the workouts, okay, 1 VO2 max workout a week, and then some endurance rides, and just being consistent. And it's, I agree. I look better, Benji.
Rumors are, if Sepkus dropped out from the Tour de France, they nearly called you up to replace him.
Nah, get the lemon in, Mr. Air Force. But yeah, it was touch and go. At one point when I had to go to Tignes, I was like, hold on, Hold on. But yeah, not quite there yet. And what 3 months of join could mean to you is a massive fitness increase, even on only 5 to 7 hours a week. You can increase your join level in your first 3 months on join by around 20% just on 5 to 7 hours a week, which might not look like much, but for example, a cyclist weighing 80 kilos would originally take an hour and 12 minutes to ride up Alpe d'Huez with 250 watts, and a 12 watt increase is a potential time improvement of 7 minutes just by doing 5 to 7 hours structured training a week. So 30 days free trial, as you know, available to you all through our code down below. And if you invite a friend as well, there's a promotion, Tour de Friends for Join Cycling during the Tour de France. If you invite friends during that link down below, you can also go in to win some pretty cool prizes. So thanks to Join Cycling for supporting the show. All right, brace form, Benji. Nasty break, way stronger than I expected. No one was pacing.
Initially.
I swear no one paced. And I was like, UAE let the gap go out. And I can't even remember who was pacing. It was kind of like
No one really.
GC teams just went side by side. And I think this is really important for the later phase of the race. The break didn't have to go nuclear on the Fagio climb.
Yep.
They weren't going nuclear. They were keeping Gibbons and the guys with them. So maybe that was some saved energy for later. But the big story in this first phase after break formation, Benji, was Cavendish.
Yep. The second that we get to that first climb, to the Trifaggi climb, we see in the peloton EF starting to mingle when it comes to the pacing. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let's first focus on the back of the peloton, where Mark Cavendish is in trouble. And we're talking in trouble. We're 2 kilometers into the first climb of the day. 160 kilometers still to go on today's stage. He's dropping with Murku. Murku is there to help him. Clearly, Murku could go faster, but he has to wait. It's his teammate. It's his leader. It's the main goal of Astana in this race to go to a stage win in a sprint with Mark Cavendish and get that number 35. And I think Vino even said in the last few weeks, even if the team disappears, the history that we make would remain.
Okay.
I'm not sure that payoff would be perfect, but
I would rather stay in.
I would rather have a team.
Yeah.
But that aside, Cavendish did not look good. The amount of bottles that Murko was throwing over his back, and then 3 other teammates also waited, also joined them. 4 Astana riders were there with him: Gazzoli, Murku, and some others from the team. His Ball probably
Ballerini.
as well. So they were all there to help him, all throwing water over him. He was vomiting.
Yeah.
At first, Coms was thinking, is he sick? He looked a bit not great. So I was also leaning towards something's wrong. But then Renshaw cleared it up on Sportza commentary, or the Sportza knew from Renshaw what it actually was.
He had heat distress. So basically, when you smash in a load of sugars and your gut's not working, it's super hot, and then your guts are going to evacuate what's in there. And so
that's the nicest way anyone has ever said it. I think Colin Kirby on Com said evacuate his stomach, and that was beautiful.
Yeah, so he was struggling, and initially when he dropped, I thought he's done, he's finished. And I don't know if he's finished yet, but
it's not 20 seconds.
This is a 4% climb, and listen, the peloton was not even launching or like pacing that hard. And I was like, we have like 3,000 meters of climbing left to go in this stage. He is going to need a miracle to make it, or he's going to need to improve. We see Jakobsen dropping. Welton drops back to work with him. Rickard drops and is in the Cavendish group. And then eventually EF start pacing. The gap had gone to 6 minutes, and matters get worse for Cav because he's not in a gruppetto. The gruppetto forms later when the real pacing starts from EF, and I'm talking Philipsen, Groeneweg, and the actual sprinters. That forms later. Cav's like 6-7 minutes behind them. And now EF are riding fast because the breakaway's gone 6 minutes. Were you surprised? I thought UAE played that phase pretty smart, Benji. I think UAE realized we can call someone else's bluff. The yellow jersey's up for grabs. We're not going to pull with Pollitt here. But then, suddenly, when EF started pacing, we have some surprise people dropping.
Yeah, and when I'm thinking through the amount of people that are dropping here, and in comparison to the expectations, Pollitt dropping early.
Yeah.
He worked in breakaway formation a little bit. but I expected him to last longer than what he did. Lenny Martinez dropping. He didn't look good at Tour de Suisse. I was hyped to see him at the Tour de France just for the sake of I like Lenny Martinez. But in hindsight, he was thrown into the deep end in the Tour de France after not looking that great at Tour de Suisse.
In the hope that something happens.
Exactly. Instead of going for his actual goal, which is the Vuelta, and by sending him to the Tour de France, they're actively probably ruining his chances at the Vuelta. And I'm not sure with the form that Lenny Martinez showed today that he's actually going to do anything this race.
I know it was super hot, so maybe he, the hot stage was a problem for him, but yeah, it didn't look good because he's dropping with rouleaus and he's dropping on a 5% climb, and so it's not looking good so far. But it's only stage one, so he, in the end he'll make it and he can improve, and maybe he comes good in 3 weeks. In the breakaway, they're all working together. Mohoric and Izagirre doing most of the work, but then Izagirre is sprinting Abrahamsen for the KOM points. Abrahamsen gets beaten most of the time. He's complaining about Izagirre closing him, but actually he just kept choosing the wrong line.
Was it complaining at Izagirre or was it complaining at the motorbike? I still can't figure it out.
I couldn't figure it out. The first time he just put his elbow in and created the space, he didn't complain.
Yeah. But the Izagirre story is more fun.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. But Izagirre I didn't see doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And then we see Lascano dropping. And I was thinking, this is... And now we're about to have the moment of truth.
It's not on the climb, eh? Lascano dropping. It's over the top.
Yeah, when Tratnik accelerates, and also Benji, we saw Vingegaard. He had a mechanical. He had a wardrobe malfunction.
Fun thing. So he had a mechanical early on in the stage. Vingegaard changed his bike, starts pacing again. I'm thinking, why is no one of Visma waiting on him? Sure, you can say he can go with the cars himself. I still would have expected one rider to wait for him personally. But the wardrobe malfunction, Luke actually looked into this. And let's hope I can trust his fashion choices and fashion judgment. It's apparently a double zipper. So he can zip upwards so he can take a piss easier. And zip downwards to take it off easier.
I didn't know
that is genius.
It's like a reverse poncho, like a plaid shirt. Did you see?
What is a poncho?
Not a poncho. If you see a plaid shirt, when people have just the buttons on up at the top and then the buttons below.
My posh Australian.
If you see Wade or Bryce in the Real Bros of Simi Valley, you'll understand.
Who is that?
Exactly. If you know, you know. Visma Lab clearly were riding Remco and Quickstep today, Benji. They rode like
invisible.
Yeah, and they rode like Remco's not the favorite for the race. That Tratnik acceleration you mentioned, it was like we're getting the front, we're going to take the descent in first position. Yeah. But then on the moment of truth was coming. The moment of truth, Côte de Barbato, the hardest climb of the stage.
Did we mention? Sorry.
No.
Gotta stop you there. Did we mention Wilco Kelderman? Death, taxes, Wilco Kelderman crashing every single day?
I mean, thankfully, Wilco didn't break anything.
Yeah.
And he was able to pull later on. But yeah, he went down some road rash. So yeah. It's like, I saw it, I was like, are you serious? But thankfully, Wilco, I mean, maybe he's got it out of the way. And like Roglic says, it's good to crash early. You get the crash out of the way, you're good. Yeah. Is a bright way of looking at it, I guess. But I saw on Strava 2 days ago, Sivakov, they went and did a rec on him and Pollard of the Côte de San Barbato. Mm-hmm. And he did 12 minutes at like 1800 VAM, maybe longer. Super hard effort. And Pollard yesterday, very curiously, he did like an 8-minute full gas effort the day before the stage. And I was like, that's the strangest taper I've ever seen. And
was that the ride towards the team presentation, or?
I don't know, but
he was too late for the team presentation. Had to hurry.
Jan Hirt crashed and broke his teeth, unfortunately, when a spectator. So like, yeah, controversial control rooms or sock height or whatever. But in the end, like, how about we secure the start of the stage for the riders?
Because to be clear, he crashed or was crashed by a spectator who apparently jumped over the barriers, hopped the fence between the team bus and the podium.
Yeah,
that should not be happening. That's ASO's responsibility, in my opinion. And it's a shame because early on in today's stage, Hirt was suffering at the back, and that can't be good. Lost half of 3 teeth.
Face in, man.
Like, it's really unfortunate. So, but that being said, we were on Barbato.
Moment of truth.
This is the fourth last climb, the hardest climb of the day, and shit's about to go down.
Yeah, we're thinking, when's the UAE? Are they going to test Jonas here? And initially they don't come to the front, and then Wellens comes, Benji. Wellens, then Soler, and the pace is good. There's riders dropping, like all the riders we said before, they're drop now. We've got Stevie Williams, Magnus Cort, Michael Matthews, Van der Poel, Buitrago on a gap. Then Sivakov takes over. Pedersen stays about the same speed, and Benji, we see Ayuso second wheel, and he doesn't look good. And I was looking at Almeida sliding, and we're doing the maths. You said it as well. This is like Giro stage 1. What next?
Yeah.
What happens? And Sivakov pulls. It's not to launch anybody. Do you think UAE just wanted to ride that climb super hard, and then if you see Vingegaard, if you see any weakness, you're just looking for that? Or do you think it was for the stage, or what do you think was their plan?
When it comes to UAE on Barbotto, I think they were trying to make it as hard as possible, and their goal initially from the start of the stage was trying to benefit and potentially win the stage. That's how I see it. Because on paper, this is a stage where Pogacar can take bonus seconds on Vingegaard and perhaps more if something else happens. But we got to keep in mind, looking at the profile, the fourth and the third last climb are the hardest. So you got to make it happen on this Barbotto climb or the next one when it comes to making the peloton suffer.
And dropping fast, boys.
And like it's Wellens, it's Soler, it's Sivakov. And the Sivakov pool was the longest of them all. I saw that people were dropping in the group. And at a certain point, Buitrago was behind. Pedersen was behind. Matthews was behind. Williams, Martinez dropped. Every time I say Martinez, by the way, I got to remember that we're talking about Lenny and not Daniel Felipe, who's not even here.
No, he's
Stephen Williams dropped as well. Van der Poel dropped during this phase. The group was still relatively large by the top. I'd say 35, 40 people, and then maybe more came back afterwards once the Pedersen group came back. It was a strong enough tempo, but if you burn through Wellens, Soler, and now you're starting to burn through Sivakov halfway as well, what's next?
That's what if they kept riding at that pace on the climbs, then for sure you were going to reduce it to just basically Poggy being the quickest guy in the group against Pidcock. But they couldn't, and then they have the descent.
Well, they couldn't. Is it a decision when it comes to the way they build their team? Because they are here with Almeida, with Ayuso, with Yates.
Yeah.
And
no Großschartner, no Micah, no Langen, no Bjerg.
Are they going to put those riders, those on paper potential co-leaders, already as domestiques on the third last climb on stage 1?
I would say, yeah, like you should. I mean,
if you believe in Pogacar,
otherwise, why start pacing hard on Barbotto with Sivakov?
Yeah,
it's simple maths. Then,
yeah,
he cannot pull all 4 climbs. Like so, then, yeah, I don't really understand. And then they pace the descent and the valley with him, and so he couldn't pace the next climb, which also I didn't understand. Gol was struggling on the descent. Ayuso didn't look so good, I have to say. And then we get to the Côte de Saint Leo. Pedersen's come back. He's got the other teammates riding for him, Schurns and co. A full track team around him. Verona, really, really good.
Gibbons still ahead.
Gibbons ahead. Julien Bernard. We get to the Côte de Saint Leo, and Visma start pacing. UAE no longer go for do anything in this stage. They stop. Ayuso is like almost on a gap now with, I think, Tratnik pacing or Benoit, then Tratnik maybe.
Yeah.
And we see an attack. Roman Bardet attacks to the breakaway, which is basically thinned down to Frank Vandenbroek, Madouaz, and Abrahamson, I think. And the gap was only 130 with 55 Ks to go. 55 Ks to go. The gap was 130.
That's crazy.
When Bardet attacks.
And when Bardet does his move, the logical thing you think is Frank Vandenbroek is up front. He's a satellite rider to which Bardet is attacking towards. And you've got 2 riders ahead fighting against the people pacing behind. Now, he's attacking on the San Leo where we've seen Visma pacing, but Benoit and Tratnik pacing. The Benoit tempo was relatively solid. The Tratnik tempo was solid as well, but Bardet can attack from this tempo and gain time from this tempo. Like, he didn't gain 10 seconds, he gained 30, 40, almost
very fast
in 10 minutes. So he was going faster, significantly faster than the peloton, and the peloton wasn't necessarily losing men anymore. Pedersen stayed in there, dropped on the previous climb, but on San Leo, he stayed in the wheel.
Never on a gap. In fact, Ayuso was the one who looked worse.
Yeah, Ayuso was the one that was on a... But first, let's go through this one by one. The questions we want to answer in the next few minutes is, first, why did UAE stop? 2, why did Visma start pacing? And I was thinking about a third question, but I don't even have one. So let's start off with the UAE one.
I think UAE stopped because of what you said, that they just don't have the numbers / the guys they do have couldn't do it.
Mhm.
Like, and also for Pogacar, like if he attacks on 4%, 5%, 40 Ks from the finish from a peloton of 30 guys with Jorgensen there, with Hindley there, with Vlasov there, with Lander there, with Vavaka there, it's kind of an exercise in futility. UAE would have had to reduce the group to 10 guys, and then you launch him on a 7% section. But and then there's a second point, which is they don't want to drop Ayuso. I would say that if Pogacar feels really, really good and wants to go for it on the stage, I don't see why you would wait for Ayuso. I'd be like, if he's dropping now, then he's not a serious. If you can't follow 40 guys and you're dropping for Pedersen, then hard luck. But anyway, it's Visma, I think, were pacing for the Van Aert stage win, but also I don't think they were. I think they were also aware that Ayuso was having a bad time.
Yeah. I think it's both. I think on one end you've got Broe and Trotnik keeping the tempo because they realize if Yoe doesn't start pacing, Van Aert won't win the stage anyway.
Yeah.
And Van Aert got over the last climb well, looks to be solid on this climb, is well in the train, so that's one logic. The other logic, in my opinion, is also if you see Ayuso dropping, and you see an opportunity, if you pace a little bit more with Benoit and Tratnik, to drop one of the potential co-leaders on paper for UAE, then that's good. But is it really super, like, for example, it's weird to say, but if a co-leader of UAE drops today, is that good or bad for the team? On one end, it's bad because they've got an option less in GC, but on the other end, it's also much more clear who the domestique is.
I think if they're riding around this Tour de France trying to nurse co-leaders around, in go for goal, but yeah. But I mean, maybe he just struggled in the heat. We saw Ayuso on stage 4 of the Tour of the Vuelta 22. He also had a similar wobble, and then he came third in that race in GC. Yeah. So he maybe just a heat cooked him today, and he's fine.
But we finished at San Leo. We go towards the next climb, the Col de Montamaggio, and in that non-valley, because it's straight down, straight drop onto the climb. At the bottom of the next climb, that Montamaggio climb, Bardet is catching up with Frank van den Broek, who is waiting from the breakaway. So satellite rider perfection from DSM. Abrahamsen is dropping from the front. Madouas is the only leftover man up the road. They eventually catch on to him. And in the peloton, we see another move from EF. Ben Healy attacks. And I'm going through this entire EF strategy in my head at the moment. And I'm thinking, they choose to not go in the breakaway at the start of the stage.
Okay.
They have a plan long-term to go with Healy on the Montamaggio climb, the second last climb. I'm okay with that move. Ideally, you're with Bardet, though.
Yeah.
But if you miss that train, this is the next best thing, because what else is Healy going to do? Well, maybe he's going to pace behind. But then your last plan is, what seemingly was their last plan, some move with Bettiol at the end, or a reduced sprint with Bettiol at the end. Bettiol's never winning in a reduced sprint, in my opinion.
No. Not against especially with Pedersen and Van Aert there. Even Pogacar there, frankly.
So he needs to attack. For that to happen, Healy's attack, he gets a Chasse Patate moment. He's in the middle of the two groups. The breakaway, then there's Healy in the middle, and then there's the peloton. And they chose not to go in the breakaway, which, in my opinion, was their biggest chance of a stage win today.
Yes, but then once the break's gone, you can't change that. And you have, if you want to win the stage, you need a control.
Yeah, but I must say, to me, it feels like EF started today's stage with a plan, and the plan was we're going to use Healy to attack on the third last or second last climb and see if he can go away with someone, depending on what happens. And we leave Bettiol as the last man. And they never adapted while the breakaway formation phase was happening, where clearly a lot of teams were interested in that breakaway, and that's where they made the mistake for me.
Because if you jump with Costa in that break, man, you got a good chance. You got a real good chance to win this stage. He was in good shape. He finishes in the peloton. But I don't really have a problem with Healy jumping, like you say. Maybe he bridges across like Bardet did. The problem is, Benji, it very, very quickly became apparent when Frank van den Broek and Bardet started pulling one against each other that Healy was not bridging that gap. No way on this sort of terrain. If it's hills, if it's 1K 5% descent, short valley, up, okay, maybe he makes it. These are climbs. Benji might even call them medium mountains. Like, these are
medium mountains.
They are? Okay. All right, no, he would call them. I would also call them medium mountains. He's pegged at 1 minute and it's not moving, and the call took way too long for Healy to wait. I'm not even sure he did wait
Yeah.
because you basically have now Visma pacing with Keldergoat with like half his body
Goat.
covered in road rash.
Yeah.
And he's moving the gap. Okay, it's gone out to 150. He moved it back from 206. Visma, they are not bringing this break back. Even if they pull with Jorgensen, Tratnik's gone, Benoit's gone, Jonas ain't going to pull. And then you basically have this Healy Shaspatat, and then eventually they're like, oh, he's not going to get across. And then he comes back and he starts pulling really well.
Yeah.
Really well. But he just wasted all this energy in a Shaspatat. I'm not saying when he jumped it was wrong, but there was a 20-minute period where he should have stopped pretty quickly.
They waited too long to pull him back because they pulled him back just before the top of the San Marino climb, which was the last climb of the day, 4% climb. And in that group, Ineos suddenly moved Kwiato to the front. You were a very big fan of that move because Pidcock has a chance to win the stage.
In the end, I don't think it was for that.
Why do you think they did it?
I think he just moved to the front for safety. Well, they didn't pace again.
Yeah, but same with Verona. Verona did exactly the same and also moved backward at that point.
True.
So I still believe that Kwiato started pacing for Pidcock. For my heart, I need it.
Hopefully.
And EF was really the team that was mostly doing the pacing at the end of this climb. And we dive into the descent. I don't know the exact gap that it was going into the descent, but it didn't go down that much from the 150, 140 maybe, something like that.
10Ks, it barely moves on this technical descent.
And I was thinking, who's in this group? Okay, Pedersen's in here. Gibbons has just been dropped after being caught from the breakaway. No, wasn't the breakaway, caught by Peloton, dropped by Peloton on the climb, on the last climb. So he isn't there anymore. Scoins is still there. Verona's still there. I'm looking at the rest of the riders when it comes to
Ciccone.
Julien Bernard, Ciccone, Stuyven probably not anymore. No. So I'm looking at 4 riders maybe for Pedersen is what I thought. Then look at the other teams. Is Jonas going to pace for Wout van Aert? Ooh, big question. Denmark versus Belgium. Who knows? Kelderman ain't going to do it, in my opinion, especially after the crash.
But he was pacing.
Jorgensen starts pacing after the descent, so they start working. Lil Trek puts a few riders to the front, but they don't put everyone to the front. They've got this strategy. They've done it at the Giro when it comes to...
we didn't say who's in the break still.
Who's in the break?
The 2 DSMs.
Ah, of course.
Yeah, but they drop Madouas. They get to Abrahamsen, they drop Madouas.
Fair.
Poor old Madouas. He could have got KOM, but Abrahamsen went into it. But yeah, sorry.
So 2 leaders at the front, Frank van den Broek and Romain Bardet. Romain Bardet riding his last Tour de France. He's going to end his career at the end of the Dauphiné next year, is I think what I read.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Van den Broek, this man just arrived on the spot from a Conti team called A Block. And I swear we've spoken about him a little bit before. There's his YouTube channel. Oh God, Casper Paulette, I think his name is. Cost 2001, and he made vlogs of his own races. But Frank is like a recurring character in the under 20, no, under 18, probably the junior racing and before that. In that, and it's really in these last few years that Frank van den Broek stepped up significantly, and you can see from the results that he's delivering in the last few weeks that he's a good rider. So he's got an engine on the flat. Bardet's got an okay engine, but he's not a Frank van den Broek on the flat anymore. And I'm thinking, okay, this gap is still significant. There's 2 riders spacing. They're going all out. It's not like they've got like a rider from an opposing team in that front group. So they're going all out. In the peloton, Little Trek is keeping riders behind. They're keeping riders for the last kilometer to do that lead out for Pedersen. And that's always a risk. Yeah. And they did that at the Giro. It paid off at certain moments, but it also backfired in another stage, if I recall correctly. And we've got Kampenaerts there with Van Gils, for example.
Kampenaerts never paced. I didn't understand it.
He moved forward in the last 2 kilometers, but I didn't see him hit the front.
No.
So maybe it happened off camera.
But he finishes 14th. Like he was like not fresh, but like the guys like Verona and Kwiatkowski and Healy pulling finished on 18:34 seconds. So it's Jorgensen, Bernard, Kelderman, and eventually I think Schoen starts to pull, and the gap, I thought, Benji, at 12Ks to go, the gap goes from 1 minute to 50 to 45. I thought they're done, these 2.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden it stabilizes. It goes down quickly again. We're getting some Italian time gaps because we are indeed in Italy. And the motorbike's in front of the peloton, and then it's away from the peloton. The motorbike's going backwards and forwards in front of the breakaway. and the time gaps all over the place. Will they catch? They won't. Will they catch them? And then I'm thinking, are DSM going to stuff this up by trying to nurse Bardet to the finish? Because Frank van den Broek was the strongest today.
Yeah.
He was in the original breakaway. He's pulling like a truck.
And he's still looking stronger than Bardet.
He's gapping him almost.
3 kilometers, to the point that we enter those last 5 kilometers gap. Like you said, it went down to 36 seconds. Was pretty stable there at around, let's say 6 kilometers.
Yeah,
was 36 seconds roughly. I think at a certain point I said, they now need to get 6 seconds per kilometer to catch them back. And it started to look more and more likely that the breakaway might actually run away with this victory. But I generally wasn't sure which group was going to make it. The breakaway with Bardet or Frank van den Broek or the peloton. One thing I was certain about, though, is if the breakaway wins, they're going to try and gift it to Romain Bardet because it's his last Tour de France. And I won't lie, despite Frank van den Broek being the best rider in the breakaway and better than Bardet and one of the best riders in the race today, I would rather have them gifted to Bardet. But would that moment actually happen? Because they started getting closer and closer and closer. And at a certain point, I'm looking at the ticker and it's like 20 seconds, 16 seconds. And what did you notice in those last 3 kilometers?
I didn't really see the peloton because they took the camera away, the motorbike, so I couldn't really. I think it was Trek doing the lead out. Maybe I don't know if Romo pulled for Aaron Baru or Campenaerts for Van Gils. But yeah, eventually you see Van Aert jumping really early. Pedersen looks like he doesn't have the gear or the gas. He just is sprinting. He didn't look as good as normal. Yeah, he didn't have it in the legs. And it just looked like the DSM guys were going to make it in the last 500. We were counting it down. It's like they're going to make it actually easily. And that's exactly what happens. They have time to post up. Double celebration with Frank van den Broek letting Bardet roll over the line first for a DSM 1-2 on stage 1 of the Tour de France. I mean, when they were planning, when they saw the route in October, when they planned for the Tour de France, I mean, this is like the stuff of the wildest dreams. On stage 1 of the Tour to double up like this, to hold off Van Aert and Pogacar is unbelievable stuff with Bardet, no less, French rider going into the yellow jersey. And, I think apologies in order from me I was probably a little bit cynical about what Bardet would do in the preview in the race in terms of GC.
I remember the rant.
Yeah, I went on a rant and he's proved me very, very wrong, and DSM proved me very, very wrong today. So hats off to them. Great tactics. Like,
masterclass.
Yeah, this is like, you could put this on a PowerPoint presentation.
This is Pro Cycling Manager.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. So really credit to them and Frank van den Broek too. But yeah, what did you see in the group behind?
When it comes to the group behind, I feel like I saw a glimpse of a little Trek rider really pulling in the last 1.5-ish kilometers, and a glimpse of another little Trek rider a bit later than that. I don't have vivid memories of the peloton. I gotta be honest, I had full body chills of Romain Bardet winning this, and the thought of him having a maillot jaune among his shoulders on the first stage of the Tour de France 2024, his final Tour de France. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but I had a tear in my eye when I was during the watch along, because Romain Bardet as a cyclist has been super impressive over the years, and we're talking the man's like one of the best French GC riders we've had in the last 20 years, getting second in the Tour de France in 2016, winning 3 stages before today at the Tour de France, I think in 15, 16, and 17. And it's been 7 years, but more important than his abilities as a cyclist and his performance as a cyclist, when Alaphilippe crashed at LBL, he was the guy that jumped into the ditch, ruined his own results. He didn't care about the race anymore. He went there to check up on Alaphilippe, and he was there with him. And moments like that, of a rider giving up his own results because he wants to nurture an injured rider by the side of the road. We had similar moments with Zelig in Scheldeprijs years ago. Those stay in my mind way longer than any performance of a rider. So genuinely, if there's any rider that deserves a fairy tale ending to his career like this, it's Romain Bardet, and I have a smile on my face until the end of this Tour de France because of this.
Better than Pinot?
Yes.
You think Bardet better career than Pinot?
Oh, yes.
I think Lombardi is the big differentiator, but
he doesn't have...
As a GC rider?
I don't think he has the same love from the French people,
no,
but he should
He definitely doesn't have that.
But he should.
Yeah, and maybe that was because he was on... I mean, he was on a French team, but not on FDJ. But yeah, he's been a very consistent top 50 rider, and better than that in a lot of years. And, he's been really good the last 2 years actually for DSM, better than you'd think. Even though he looked like he was in the twilight of his career, he actually
second at LBL.
Yeah, like actually really, really good. And this year, yeah, as you say, 1,600 UCI points. Like, and more important than UCI points is obviously taking the yellow jersey on stage one. Also means that, yeah, for the extension of Frank Vandenbroek, you don't have to pay for a Tour de France stage win. Although Bardet's his Tour de France stage win bonus might be higher. I don't know.
Frank van den Broek will probably win a Tour de France stage this year based on what I saw today, my friend.
He looks pretty good. Winning the sprint behind Wout van Aert, actually let it out. He was surprised how strong he was. Pogacar 4th, Van Hills 5th, Arenberg 6th, Mads Pedersen 7th, Remco Evenepoel 8th. Bilbao 9th, Berthiol 10th, probably not what EF wanted from the stage in the end.
I'll snipe in there with two things. First of all, Aramburu beat Pedersen. Aramburu is a better sprinter than Pedersen, full-blown until the end of the
Roma should have pulled. UCI points, man.
Jonas should have pulled.
I mean,
We've got the same discussion as last year.
If Javier Romo beats Jonas in GC, I'll agree. But maybe I reckon you could spare. I mean, Visma did use Jorgensen.
On a serious note,
UAE should have pulled Benji. They fucked up.
They get no bonus seconds. They get 4th behind Wout van Aert. And if they pull, let's be honest, they could have pulled it. They've got the riders for it. I think UAE should have pulled.
They had 5 riders in the group.
And it's not just co-leaders.
No, they have Sivakov.
Sivakov should have also pulled.
Yeah.
I'm okay with them not leaving the co-leaders aside, but at least Sivakov should have pulled.
Yeah, so 6. I mean, Vingegaard's going to be pretty happy, I think, that he goes through this stage, doesn't lose a single second to Pogacar. Of course.
And he looked okay.
Vingegaard?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked okay. He was on the balance bike 2 weeks ago, so he looked all right. But Van Aert, I thought, Van Aert, we saw the disappointment after the end of the Heiskebel when Lafay sniped him last year. But the interview he gave to Sports, this was a successful test. I never expected this. I'm very happy. I just felt good today. And as the situation was, I had a chance to win a stage. Somehow I regained my confidence during the race. There were 2 strong riders ahead who were also teammates. Then you know that they're going to drive head-to-head really hard. Congrats to them. We really couldn't do much more, so we're satisfied. So he doesn't seem as like, after Heiskebel last year, he was fuming. So he's taken that better than I would have, actually.
What did he say again?
Win
en onmogelijk.
Whatever. Godverdomme.
No, that's not what he said.
This cannot happen or something. I swear Philipsen.
How is that possible?
Philipsen said that as well when on the Asgren stage win.
Yeah?
With the motos, Philipsen said that.
The same thing.
Yeah, he's like, this is impossible. This cannot happen. On stage 17 or 18 last year.
Oekande nu sounds a lot more than Philipsen.
I don't speak Dutch.
Philipsen has the Flemish accent of Oekande nu, while Wout has more of the accent, hoe is dat nou mogelijk?
They're different words, man.
We can classify different Flemish riders like that.
We hebben een serious probleem. Ik cannot happen. It cannot nicht happen.
That's German.
Whatever, man. GC Butter goes into the lead. Frank Vandenbroek 4th. Van Aert's on 11 seconds. Points jersey. Vandenbroek will wear that because he took the intermediate sprint points, so he doesn't even share that from Bardet. KOM, Abrahamson takes it by 2 points ahead of Marouaz. Frank Vandenbroek, green is above youth, no?
Yes.
So he wears youth, and then Maxim Van Hills, Benji, is in the youth tomorrow, sharing it.
Well, I didn't win the stage, so I don't care. I only care about the stage when from our picks.
Kamenar should have also pulled.
But before we continue, let's talk motorbikes. I do think this is a stage where we need to talk about it.
I don't want to be the whingy, you know?
No, but I'll be the whingy then. So on one end, we've got Romain Bardet and Frank van den Broek winning. Sorry, my heart says, I love this. I'm okay with it. My head says, I feel like they got a bit of a bonus when it comes to the motorbike being ahead of them. I will also say the counterpoint. In the last kilometer, there was also a motorbike in front of the peloton. And is it because the breakaway wins that we're focusing on the motorbike in front of the breakaway more than the peloton? I'd need a rewatch to really compare how much a motorbike was in front of each group.
It was close in front of Vandenbroek for a minute. Like it was
50 meters.
It was really close where you can only see his like upper body, and even the commissaires were telling. If you see the commissaires telling the motorbike to get away, then it's too close. But in the end, they win by 5 seconds. And Benji, Jonas didn't pull, Campenarts didn't pull, Trek saved their lead out. UAE didn't pull. Romo didn't pull for Aaron Baru. More people should have pulled.
Yeah. And I've also got the opinion that over the last few years, we've also come to the point that we speak about motorbikes helping the lone rider or the breakaway so much over the years that it's part of the sport. It's a thing that shouldn't be part of the sport, but it is part of the sport. And teams know that as well. If they don't, then they don't watch the sport. So
if you want to be,
they should be aware that if you are ahead,
you got an advantage.
then you've got an advantage of motor pacing. So,
yep, I think
I don't care.
To be honest, like
in the long term, when it comes to the sport, I care about this issue, and it's something they need to work on. But I can't say I have a big problem with what happened today.
Yeah, I mean, DSM played their cards perfectly, and maybe they still win by 1 second.
They put themselves into position where that motorbike helped them out. Yeah. Was the French TV motorbike helping a French rider? Maybe, but...
Like, remember Benjamin Thomas last year or the year before? Like, sometimes it borders on the ridiculous. But, you know, don't let Bardet bridge. Don't give them 2 minutes.
Yep.
Is also don't just assume you're going to chase everybody down.
But I do want to hear the opinion of the people watching about the motorbike issue. Do you think this is an issue in the sport?
Oh, it is an issue. You can't argue. It is an issue. It is. Like, they're too close.
Yeah.
But
especially on a final like this where it's not necessary to be that close.
No, like...
If you're accidentally too close in a descent, you probably shouldn't be there in the first place, but you probably can't get out of that situation once you're in it.
Yeah.
Here, they could have been out of that situation. And the fact that the commissaire has been complaining to the motorbike multiple times in the final here.
Yeah, well, when you see 6 guys swapping off and the gap's not moving to 2 guys and Bardet, you're like, yeah, it's crazy. But
that being said, I am very happy Bardet won.
Oh, yeah, for the race and for DSM, you know, it's also good, like, it's just good for different teams to win.
Yeah.
And especially at the Tour, like, instead of Visma and UAE and Visma and UAE and Visma and UAE, or Alpecin, it's good for some different teams, you know, especially with Jakobsen struggling in the Gruppetto. We should also, to round off this stage, Jakobsen, Cavendish, everybody makes the time cut. I think the only abandoned was Gazzoli, Benji, but Cavan, Jakobsen, after looking really, really bad, he makes it. So he lives to fight another day, and tomorrow, I think, is not as dangerous for him.
But before we get to tomorrow's stage, I do want to say, oh God, what was I going to say again? Oh, Wout van Aert, he's not, I have no clue what I was going to say. Let's skip.
Merkelig.
What?
Merkelig.
Doesn't even sound like Flemish. Just skip the entire point I was trying to make. I don't remember either.
I speak Eindhoven Dutch. Tomorrow's stage, Cesenatico, where Pantani's from, so we'll even see some people wearing like parada costumes today. Of course, is it somewhat curious that in the team's presentation we have shout-outs to Marco Pantani, who was, fully loaded half the time? Yeah, it's strange, but whatever. A lot of things in this sport don't make sense. Cesenatico to Bologna, 201 kilometers, another mini Italian classic. It is not as hard as today's stage. We have 60 k's of flat, then 2 climbs, Côte de Monticino and the Côte de Galisterna, 1.4 k's, 10%. Is that the Imola Worlds climb, Benji?
Yes.
Where Alaphilippe dropped everybody?
Yes.
Okay, but then after that, there's a 40
and the
kilometer
Imola
valley.
course is there.
Are they straight up doing the Imola course?
Yep.
Okay, cool. That is pretty cool. Then they do another couple of short climbs, 2K 6%, 3K 7%, 7.5%. And then we get to the first of the 2, Colle de San Luca, 2Ks, 10.4%. Then they have the Monte Albano afterwards, which is 1K, 5.4%, little kicker after the false summit. There's a valley of, if I could count, maybe about 10Ks. And then they do San Luca again before the a short descent. And then 8, 9Ks to the finish. San Luca, for reference, is in the Giro dell'Emilia. It's quite a difficult climb. And it has some 400-meter sections of 13, 14, 15%.
So, when I look at the Côte de San Luca, okay, we've got this climb. It's 1.9 kilometers at 10.4%. You just said it. If we look at the exact gradients of the climb, then it's relatively steady. The first 400 meters are 12.7, then 8.2 for the next 400 meters, then 12.9 for the next 400 meters. Then we're halfway the climb, basically. And the last 800 meters are 10.2 and 5.9%. So, when I look at that climb, you're saying, well, it's very clear this is an easier stage than stage 1.
Yeah, way easier.
But I still feel like this climb leads more towards a GC fight than this stage.
Yes, because the last climb is steeper.
Yes.
And it's crests at 12.5 Ks from the finish.
Yes.
Today, the last climb was 4%, crested 26 Ks from the finish. So it is completely, in the favor of the GC group. Tomorrow's forecast in Bologna is about 32 degrees, so not as furious as today, but also it'll be another hot one. And what was I going to say? Yeah, it seems like a stage, Benji, then where UAE also, they don't need to use as many guys to set it all up. So I expect GC action tomorrow. The breakaway, do you think some teams will be a bit more encouraged from what happened today, or do they?
Tomorrow's less of a breakaway stage for me. Tomorrow's a stage where UAE might actually control fully, in my opinion.
Oh, it looked a bit no good.
Which GC rider is the most likely to be in trouble on a climb like San Luca? In my head, when I think of the Giro last year, I think about Remco, but that's COVID related. So
I actually not that worried about Remco, frankly.
Okay. Almeida?
Yeah, Almeida not like, I'm sure he'll probably do the same watts as everybody. But look, you even saw today, he's sliding, his positioning is bad. So I would say tomorrow is we are going to see your theory, Benji, tomorrow. I'm going to say it's your theory.
My theory?
UAE, are they going to go for the stage and Pogacar attacking and risk Ayuso and Almeida losing time?
Tomorrow they have to do that.
Yeah,
Today's stage is much more risky to do that 4 climbs from the end. Tomorrow, if you do that on the last climb, then you've only got 13 kilometers for that rider to lose time.
Yeah, so they lose 10 or 15 seconds.
So I think tomorrow they have to go for Pogacar regardless.
Yeah, you would expect them to. There's also a bonus gate on the last San Luca with 8, 5, and 2 bonus seconds. I think this is too hard for Van Aert if it launches.
Yes.
After what we saw today, where I think even the longer climbs are actually better for him. So I think it's going to be up to UAE to control. Is there any other team that thinks they can go Pidcock, Ineos, Benji? I wouldn't, because let's just say Carlos is like a bad version of Vingegaard. Then why would you also bring back a break to bring back 18 bonus seconds in play?
Nobody outside of UAE should control this stage.
No. I don't think so either.
Unless you're Roglic and you believe in your flat sprint, which I think Pogacar cleans Roglic on a flat sprint.
Yeah, I think so. I think Remco beats him on a flat sprint.
But then
does
again,
Roglic think he can drop them? He dropped Pogacar once on this climb before. He did.
Yeah, but are we gonna look at every Giro dell'Emilia?
No, I'm not saying he will do it. I'm saying Roglic could be thinking, I'm good on this finish. I dropped him before. Why can't I do it here?
Yeah. So UAE is the prime suspect to pace all day. Bora might help here or there, but I don't think they should initiate pacing. They should first look at UAE and see whether they start controlling or not.
Yeah, Bora should not help control the break from the start. That would be crazy. Do you think we see any second tier GC action on the first San Luca where a Vlasov, a Hindley, a Yates jumps?
No.
Because of the valley.
I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I am thinking, like, is that a place where Healy goes again like he did today, for example?
I think EF should go on the break. If other serious riders are trying to jump in the breakaway, which again, I think if you think you can beat Pogacar and you're not like if you're not like 3 other riders, then you should be in the breakaway tomorrow. So EF should be in the break. Yeah, a lot of teams, Bahrain, even
The reality is UAE's riders to pace on the flat are Polit and Wellens, and Polit didn't look extraordinary today.
Yeah, it looked bad, I would say. So yeah, I would try and go on the breakaway again. And but who have you got?
I've got this feeling. If you look at the San Luca climb, you said it, 13 kilometers from the finish, it tops, but it's got this little bump on top as well, so it's not really done yet. Eh?
No, it's false.
The real flat segment after the climb is only like 5-6 kilometers.
You can't come back.
On paper, if Pogacar launches on that climb, I don't think there's many people that are going to be with Pogacar after that climb. And
who's the Narvaez of this race?
Well, for stage 1, I picked Van Gils. I think he's not unlikely to be a Narvaez in this race, but I don't think he's going to be able to follow Pogacar on that climb either. And I'm thinking other riders. We didn't see Bettiol today when it comes to his abilities on the climb. So maybe Bettiol is him on this stage, but I'm thinking through the rest and I can't figure it out. Does Bardet keep yellow? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I think Frank van den Broek should go in the breakaway.
I agree with that for sure. DSM should go again for Frank van den Broek in the breakaway. I'm going to go with Remco Evenepoel wins from the wheel of Pogacar in a small group sprint. I think
not unlikely.
I think Pogacar gaps mostly everybody on the climb, but brings one or two guys with him. I think they then sit in his wheel a bit defensively on the 1K 5% climb, and then the guys come back who would drop by 3 to 5 to 7 seconds, and then we have a group sprint of 8 guys, and it's going to be between Pogacar, Remco, and Roglic probably.
Is it not impossible that in the last 10 kilometers or just after the descent, we don't see Ayuso or Almeida, whoever the other UAE riders are, really work for that Pogacar sprint? They probably would. But then if Vlasov flyer goes?
Yeah, or Pidcock on the descent, you know. Who knows what Pidcock's punch is like. So, yeah, there's options.
I'm going to go for... I want to go for an outsider because Pogacar is the obvious one that you think of to win this stage. On paper, he takes time on his competitors.
He'll be the favorite, yeah.
He takes time on his competitors on paper on this stage. I'm going to go for... Carlos Rodriguez? Nah.
No
Definitely
chance.
not on this stage.
Derek G.
Nah.
It's too punchy. Bilbao.
Not having it.
I think Bilbao.
I'd go for Pidcock.
Yeah, Pidcock I think is going to go for it. If he has to follow, you know.
Yeah.
And he's got to do a nuclear descent, and that's the thing. Like,
because like Chad is also talking about Mathieu van der Poel, but
no,
for me this is too hard.
No.
Especially how early he drops today.
Today he already mentally was like, I'm not going to do it, and then tomorrow he already said tomorrow's definitely too hard for him.
Yeah.
So are we discounting the break?
I am.
Aaron Broe should go on the break, right?
Yeah.
Aaron Broe, all these sort of guys should go on the breakaway.
I am discounting the break, but for no reason at all. Because in reality, UAE doesn't have that many riders to control the breakaway. So they'll need help. And it really depends on whether Boras kicks in or not.
If the DSs think like they thought today, again, then the break should win because EF will jump, surely will go on the break tomorrow. EF will not chase tomorrow like they did. And the break can get a very, very big gap and get out of control. So the break does have a good chance.
Sam Yates is also one of the riders that could slip away at the end of the stage like that. But
today,
he's sitting at the back with Harper. You're right.
I would go someone like Vlasov. He's good here for that sort of rider. But it's open. But yeah, Poggi will be the big favorite, of course. That's all I think from us.
Laurence? Too hard?
Too hard. I thought he should have been... He didn't even jump to get the break today with the Mesh over and over and over.
Williams was also disappointing today.
Yeah, but he's Welsh. He's only good in flesh minus 5 degrees. The heat today cooked him. I mean, I'd love to see Eganito or Oscar Onley. It'd be nice to have like another heartwarming winner tomorrow to carry on from today. But unless you got anything else, Benji, any other news, any other drama, that's all from us. Hope you enjoyed our recap of Tour de France Stage 1. Thanks, as always, to our show partner, Join Cycling. Go check out their offer for 30 days free trial through our link down in the description, and we'll see you with a recap of Stage 2 tomorrow. Ciao.